The wind howled across the empty plains like a warning from another world. Caleb Turner had heard that sound 1,000 times before. It was the cry of loneliness, the echo of dust and regret that followed a man who chose to live far from towns, far from gossip, far from people. The Lone Rancher, they called him. Not because he was unfriendly, but because everyone he had ever loved was gone. That night, the sky burned red with sunset when he heard something he never expected. A voice. Not the wind. Not a coyote. A woman's voice. "Save me." Caleb's hand tightened around the reins of his horse. He turned slowly toward the old cottonwood tree near the creek bed. And there she stood. 5 young Apache women huddled together, torn dresses, dust-streaked faces, eyes filled with fear, but only one stepped forward. She couldn't have been older than 22. Long black hair tangled by the wind. Strong cheekbones. Proud posture despite exhaustion. There was fire in her dark eyes, even now. "Please," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "They are coming." Caleb scanned the horizon. In the distance, dust. Riders. Trouble. He didn't ask questions. Didn't hesitate. "Get on," he ordered. Within seconds, he had them mounted 2 to a horse, riding hard toward his ranch hidden behind low hills and thick brush. The ranch was small but fortified, built by his father long ago when the land was still wild and unforgiving. They reached it just as night swallowed the sky. Caleb barred the doors, extinguished the lanterns, and waited in silence. The riders passed. By dawn, the danger was gone. But something else had arrived. Responsibility. The 5 Apache women sat quietly around his kitchen table the next morning. Caleb poured water into tin cups, saying little. He had fought in wars, buried family, and survived winters that killed cattle by the dozens. But this was different. The woman who had spoken stepped forward again. "My name is Apache," she said. "These are my sisters." Caleb studied them. They were not children. They were grown women hardened by travel and grief. Their clothes were worn but clean, their posture dignified. "Who is chasing you?" he asked. "Men who think we are property," Apache replied calmly. "Traders who raid villages. They burned ours." The room went still. Caleb felt something tighten in his chest. He had seen that kind of cruelty before. "You can stay until it's safe," he said gruffly. "But this ranch is simple. I have no servants. No luxury." Apache's lips curved faintly. "We are not afraid of work." And they weren't. Within days, the ranch felt different. Laughter echoed near the well. The smell of fresh bread drifted through open windows. The younger sisters repaired torn blankets. Another tended Caleb's injured horse with skilled hands. But it was Apache who unsettled him most. She walked the land like she belonged to it. She understood the soil, the wind patterns, the coming storms. She stood beside him while mending fences, asking questions, not like someone helpless but like someone building a future. "You live alone," she said quietly one evening as they watched the sun sink behind the hills. "Yes." "Why?" He paused. "Because everyone I loved died." She absorbed that. Nodded. "My mother once told me," she said softly, "that land is lonely without voices. That even strong trees need others around them, or the lightning will choose them first." Caleb looked at her then. She was not pleading for protection. She was offering something else. Days passed into weeks. Word spread that Caleb Turner had taken in Apache women. Some neighbors disapproved. Others warned him that trouble would follow. Trouble did follow. One afternoon, 3 riders approached his ranch. The same men. Caleb stood on his porch, rifle in hand. Apache stepped beside him. "You stay inside," he muttered. She didn't move. "They will not leave easily," she said. The riders stopped at the gate. "Those women belong to us," one of the men shouted. "You hand them over, old man." Caleb's jaw hardened. "They don't belong to anyone." The man laughed darkly. "Everything belongs to someone." Apache stepped forward then. Her voice rang clear across the field. "We are not cattle. We are not coin." The wind carried her words. Caleb saw something shift in the riders, expressions, uncertainty. This wasn't what they expected. Not fear. Defiance. One rider reached for his gun. Caleb fired first. The bullet struck the dirt near the man's horse, sending it rearing back. "Next one won't miss," Caleb warned. The standoff stretched like a pulled wire ready to snap. Then, something unexpected. The ranch gate creaked open from the inside. The other 4 sisters walked forward, each holding a farming tool, shovels, pitchforks, axes. They stood beside a pony. 5 women. Unshaken. The riders hesitated. This was no easy claim. No frightened group to drag away. This was a line drawn in the dust. And behind it stood a man who had nothing left to lose. The riders spat in the dirt, muttered curses, and turned away. They never returned. That night, the ranch felt quieter, but not with fear. With relief. Caleb sat by the fire when a pony approached him. Her face was lit by the glow of flame, shadows dancing in her eyes. "You risked your life for us," she said. "You risked yours too." She stepped closer. "In my village," she began slowly, choosing her words carefully, "when a man protects a woman not because he owns her, but because he honors her freedom, he is seen as strong enough to build a future." Caleb's breath caught slightly. "A pony." She met his gaze steadily. "I do not ask for protection alone," she said. "I ask for partnership. For roots. For a life planted with intention." Her voice softened. "I want a home where children are born into safety. Where no one is hunted. Where strength is shared." The meaning was clear, not desperate, not reckless, but deeply human. She wasn't begging for survival. She was asking for legacy. Caleb had buried the idea of family years ago. Buried it with his wife. With the small grave behind the barn that marked a child who never lived to see spring. But here stood a woman who had seen loss, and still believed in tomorrow. "You would choose this life?" he asked quietly. "Hard winters. Dust storms. Me." She smiled gently. "You are not as alone as you think, Caleb Turner." The wind shifted outside. Something inside him shifted too. Months passed. The ranch flourished. The sisters built new structures. Planted crops using methods passed down through generations. They taught Caleb songs in their language. He taught them to read from old books his mother left behind. And slowly, love grew. Not loud, not reckless, but steady. The kind built on shared labor, shared defense, shared hope. Caleb asked a pony to marry him under the same cottonwood tree where they first met. No grand speech. Just truth. "I thought my life ended years ago," he said. "But you planted something new." Tears shone in her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "We both did." The wedding was small. Neighbors who once doubted came bearing gifts. Even the town preacher, stiff and uncertain at first, left with a softened heart. Years later, the ranch was no longer called the Lone Ranch. Children's laughter rang across the fields. 5 sisters built families of their own, choosing men who respected their strength. Caleb would often sit on the porch at dusk, watching a pony guide their young son across the yard, teaching him how to plant seeds in straight rows. "Everything planted with care," she would tell the boy, "grows stronger." And Caleb understood the deeper truth. Saving someone is not about ownership. It is about standing beside them when they choose to rise. The West remained wild. Storms still came. Winters still bit hard. But the ranch stood firm, not because of fences or rifles, but because of unity. Because a woman once stood in the dust and asked not just to be saved, but to build. And a lonely man found that the strongest roots grow where courage meets compassion. The wind still howled across the plains. But now, it carried laughter with it.